If you've ever had the opportunity to travel through Amish country, you were blessed with the ability to view some Amish horse and buggies going down the road. It's just a beautiful sight, if you ask me. You can also look out into the fields and you can see the workhorses pulling a contraption full of a wagon full of manure, and where it's kind of spinning it and spreading it out onto the fields, because that's how they fertilize their crops. They also use crop rotation. They do not continuously keep growing the same plant in the same field. So if they're growing corn one year, they might grow soybeans the next year. So crop rotation is really important because different plants have different compounds in them, and when you rotate, it keeps that soil healthy, and that's really important. One of our neighbors that we've worked closely with, even every year, has their soil tested. He's grows tons of produce and he sells it, and he's very careful about testing the soil and making sure he's planting the right plants in the right soil. So that is the most popular way. The second way that the Amish like to fertilize is with fish fertilizer. Now, you may not have ever heard of that, but we also have one of our neighbors that actually is in the business of selling fish fertilizer. What is that? It's actually a product that uses fish. I found a recipe actually. You could use 1 part fresh fish, 3 parts sawdust, and 1 bottle of unsulfured molasses. And if you mix that up, you might want to add a little bit of water as well, but put it in a large container with a lid and keep stirring it every day for about 2 weeks till everything's broken down and mixed up. And then you have that you can put on your plants. And it is great for adding nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. These are things that are essential for healthy plant growth, and they're natural. That's the important part. They're natural. It's nothing in there that's going to hurt you. And the other one I wanted to share was chicken poo. Chicken poo is one of the best fertilizers. Now, not all animal scat can be used as a fertilizer, and this is going to be important to think about later when I tell you about sludging. So what are the benefits of using chicken poo? If you're buying it, a lot of times it'll come in a liquid matter so that you just spray it on, which is a lot easier. If you have your own chickens, you can actually use your own chicken poo that you have from your chickens. Of course, if you want to make sure that you let it decompose over time so that it's broken down. I know a lot of you have heard of all the synthetic pesticides that are put into our plants, and I'm sure you can go to the store and you can see all that stuff. But have you heard about sludge? And I just became enlightened to this about 6 months ago, and it just really horrified me. What is sludge? Sludge is a semi-solid substance that is a byproduct of wastewater. Now think about that. This is the byproduct that has been treated at a treatment plant. Okay, think of all the stuff that's going into that treatment plant, and they're using it as fertilizer on land, farmland. Now, even when I heard that, I knew that we don't want to use anything coming from cats and dogs because of things that they eat. There's a lot of animal scat that we don't use for fertilizer, and there's a reason for it. Humans is probably the worst one you would want to use. Think about what we eat and what kinds of things are in our system. I mean, just look at the drug industry. And now we're putting it through a treatment plant and then putting it back onto our land. And just that alone should be enough to horrify you. Some of you are being optimistic and saying, well, they treat it so that it's safe. Is it? I want you to look at the process, okay? We're going to start over here with number 1, okay? Plastics, pharmaceuticals, and harmful chemicals like PFAS. Now remember that. And bioheinous is found in everyday products, including food, and they all enter our water stream. So look at all of these products, okay? So now let's go to the next part. A lot of our sewage comes from things that we use in our house, from your toilet, from your washer, from your regular water for the tub and the sink, okay? Then it goes to the treatment plant, and I'm not going to read all of these to you, but you can see it here. You can stop the video if you want to read all these. And then it goes in this tractor, right, to the farm, and they use it to fertilize farmland. Now remember, all those things that are in the water, okay, the wastewater. Then the contaminants build up in the soil and they reach water courses. So here you have PFAS in your farmland and microplastics. And finally, you're growing the food. So guess what? All of those chemicals get into your food and then it gets back into your body. You're being exposed not only through the food, but also through other places. Now, what is PFAS? Okay, I'm going to write this word up here because I know I'm not saying it right, but it's polyfluoroalkyl substances. So PFAS, it's a group of human-made chemicals that have been used in consumer products and industrial processes since the 1950s. So the bad news is you cannot remove what is in your system. So if you go get tested, it's there. The good news is you can start eating healthier and being aware. Start farming. Start growing your vegetables like the Amish. If you live near an Amish produce area, then start buying from the Amish if you don't like to grow your own. But start thinking about making better choices. I want to show you just a little bit of a video here, and then I'm going to put the entire link so that you can finish watching it. But this talks a lot about the forever chemicals and how it's affected two different farmers. And this will give you some more details and help you get a little bit of a better understanding.
So what happened to Fred and Laura and Adam and Johanna? How did PFAS end up on prime American farmland?
We have this bright idea that we're going to take all this sewer sludge and we're going to spread it on the land as fertilizer.
Sludge, a byproduct of sewage treatment plants, but it can be used as a natural fertilizer. This land reclamation project demonstrates how nutrients contained in sludge can convert unused land into fertile crop-bearing farm areas.
The answer lies in a type of fertilizer made from treated sewage called sludge, and a program that spread it directly on their land.
Particularly in the 70s, we started taking that sludge and applying it to farmland as a fertilizer.
Welcome to the Sludge Pathway with epidemiologist Patrick McCroy.
You know, the process starts with the manufacturing of PFAS. Right, so DuPont, 3M, others actually manufacture these chemicals.
Patrick says these manufacturing plants discharge to a sewer system, which goes to a wastewater treatment facility. Then there's PFAS in your home, from our clothing that's stain resistant to our sofas and carpets and our cleaning products. When we clean an item in the washing machine or dump a bucket down the drain.
But they have to do something with all of those solids that settle out, and that's what we call sludge. So you have this contaminated sludge that then goes to a local farm where it's spread out as fertilizer. Most of the PFAS that ends up in most people is from what we eat, right? So if you look at the PFAS that's on the farmland, goes into crops, or goes into crops that are eaten by animals that we then eat, that PFAS is eaten by us.
At what point in this entire flowchart and process does the EPA test for PFAS?
They don't. They don't. They never test for PFAS, right? EPA requires the sewer districts to test for a handful of heavy metals, but they never test for PFAS.
So this sludge is going onto farmland without being tested for PFAS by the EPA?
Correct. By the EPA or by any state or local authority. It's just not tested. No one knows.
Forgive me, that sounds crazy.
It is.
So you have almost like a cycle that you take the hazardous waste, apply the sludge on the land, you now contaminate the land, that contaminates the water, that's contaminated the food chain. We're into a real serious problem here with this forever chemical.
So going into the new year, I hope this is something you think about and just make all the choices that you can that are within your control to help feed your family and yourself healthier.